Hello students, welcome to this video lesson in ICT for grade 9 series. This lesson is part of the practical problem solving and programming unit. Today you are going to learn how to write computer programs using an iteration structure or loop. The programming language we are going to use is Python. Let us start by looking at the contents of the lesson. We will first see what is an iteration programming construct, which iteration structures are found in Python, how to write Python programs using iteration. We will have a quick test to assess your understanding of the lesson. Finally, we will have a recap to end the lesson. What is an iteration? When solving a problem, we may come to a point where some instructions need to be executed more than once. Let us consider a simple example, filling a glass of water. What are the different steps to follow? Place a glass under the tap, open the tap, wait, check water level. Is the glass full? No. Wait again. Check the water level. Is the glass full? Not yet. Wait for a few seconds more. Check the water level. Is the glass full? Yes, it is. Close the tap. Notice how some instructions have been repeated. The same block of instructions is repeated 3 times. Iteration means repeating one or more instructions several times. Using iteration, the repeated block is written only once. But it is executed several times. Let us see how iteration is used in computer programs. Iteration means executing the same block of instructions over and over several times. A programming structure that carries out iteration is called a loop. Python has 2 loop commands: for loops and while loops. Let us see the Python for loop. The for loop is used when we know in advance exactly how many times to loop. The number of times a block is repeated in a for loop is determined by a list or the range function. Let us see how a list is used to loop in Python. Lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. A list is created using square brackets. For example, the list My Heroes contains elements Iron Man, Wonder Woman, and Spider-Man. The list My Numbers contains numbers 0, 2, 4, 6 and 8. To display every name in list My Heroes using a for loop, we type for name in My Heroes. Notice how the for in statement ends with a colon. Variable name will take values in list My Heroes one at a time. The print name statement will display the correct name on screen. Notice how the print name statement is indented further to the right. Executing this piece of code displays the contents of the list one by one. To display every number in list myNumbers using a for loop. For number in myNumbers, variable number will take values in list myNumbers one at a time. Print number displays the correct number on the screen. 0, 2, 4, 6 and 8. Let us now see how the range function is used in a for loop. The Python range function creates a sequence of numbers such that the first number is 0, the following numbers increment by 1, and the last number is 1 less than the number specified between brackets. For example, the instruction mySequence equal to range 5 creates a sequence of numbers starting from 0, increasing in steps of 1, and stops at 4, that is 1 less than 5. Therefore, mySequence holds values 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. To display the sequence of numbers generated by the command range 7, type for number in range 7. Notice how the for in range statement ends with a colon. Range generates 7 numbers starting with 0, ending with 6. Variable number takes values generated by range 7 one at a time. Print number will display the current value held by variable number one at a time. Let us see another example. We are going to display the word computer 5 times using a for loop. Numbers in a sequence generated by range command will be used as a counter. Type for counter in range 5. Range will generate a series of numbers starting from 0. It will generate 5 numbers 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Variable counter takes values generated by range 5 one at a time. Print computer will be printed 5 times. When counter is 0, when counter is 1, counter is 2, when counter is 3, and finally when counter is 4. Let us now see the while loop. A while loop repeatedly executes a block of instructions as long as a given condition is true. A while loop is used when we do not know the exact number of times the instruction block will be repeated. Python uses the while keyword followed by a condition. The condition may evaluate to true or false. The while statement ends with a colon. The while statement ends with a colon. The block of instructions to be repeated is indented under the while statement. Let us see a Python example using a while loop. Display the numbers 1 to 5. use a while loop to control a counter. We set counter to 1. While counter is less than or equal to 5. This is a condition to control the loop. Remember, while statement ends with colon. The print counter command displays the value of counter on screen. Counter is equal to counter plus 1 increments the counter. Every time the loop executes, the next number is displayed. The loop stops when value of counter reaches 6. Let us now see another example using a while loop. We are going to display a word 7 times. Variable counter is initialized to value 1 before starting the loop. Use a while loop to control a counter. The condition here is counter equal to or less than 7. Print the word computer. Increment value of counter. The print computer command displays the word on screen 7 times, and the loop will stop when the value of counter becomes 8. We learned what is an iteration and how they are implemented in the Python programming language. We saw how to write Python programs using the iteration constructs for and while. We will now have a quick test to assess how well you understood the lesson. The test will consist of multiple choice and true-false questions. Read the questions carefully. You will have a few seconds to give your answer. Let us start with the first question. First question, an iteration structure is used to a block of instructions. Option A, skip. Option B, duplicate. Or option C, repeat. The correct answer is option C. An iteration structure is used to repeat a block of instructions. Next question. Which of the following is not an iteration structure used by Python? A, for in. B, if else. C, while. If else is a selection structure, not an iteration structure. Option B is the correct answer. Next question. A while loop repeats a block of instructions an exact number of times. True or false? The statement is false. To repeat a block an exact number of times, we use a for in loop. Question 4. Range 3 generates the numbers 0, 1 and 2. True or false? The statement is true. Range 3 will generate 3 numbers starting with 0. that is numbers 0, 1 and 2. Question 5. A while loop stops repeating a block of instructions when a condition becomes true. True or false? This statement is false. A while loop executes a block of instructions as long as a given condition is true and stops when the condition becomes false. So that was the last question of our test. I am certain you were able to answer all the questions correctly. It's time now for a recap of what we learned today. Writing Python programs using iteration structures. Let's go for the recap. We learned that iteration means to execute a block of instructions several times. A programming structure that carries out iteration is called a loop. Python has two loop commands: for loops and while loops. The for loop is used when we know exactly how many times to loop. A while loop is used when we do not know the exact number of times the instruction block will be repeated. A while loop repeatedly executes a block of instructions as long as a given condition is true. The recap brings us to the end of this lesson on Python programming and writing programs using iteration structures. I am sure that you enjoyed watching it. Until we meet for another lesson, I wish you all plenty of success in your studies. Goodbye.